Today we're going to demonstrate how to pressurize a 1,900-pound or 862-kilogram 1-ton cylinder. The specific fill weights of the 1-ton cylinders vary depending on region. The 1-ton cylinder is among the packages widely used for Honeywell Solstice LBA, Solstice GBA, and Innovate 245FA. Before working with any liquid under pressure, you must carefully follow instructions provided in the Safety Data Sheet, or SDS, including information provided on the addition of dry nitrogen. Cylinders should be protected from sunlight and should not be exposed to temperatures exceeding 131 degrees Fahrenheit or 55 degrees Celsius. It's essential to wear the proper personal protective equipment, or PPE. This includes, but is not limited to, safety glasses with side shields, solvent-resistant gloves, and appropriate clothing. Avoid contact with eyes, skin, and clothing, and do not breathe mist or vapors. Before the pressurization process can begin, you should inspect all equipment. Ensure that you have all supplies needed, that they are in proper working condition, and meet materials compatibility requirements. First, inspect the blowing agent cylinder. These 1-ton cylinders are designed to be used horizontally and must never be used or stored in the vertical orientation. The identical valves are to be oriented with the one directly above the other. The top valve is used for vapor, and the bottom valve is used to dispense liquid. The maximum recommended service pressure is 260 psi, or 1800 kPa, and there is no practical need for cylinder pressure to exceed 100 psi, or 690 kPa. Check that the cylinder has the proper fittings. The cylinder valve used to discharge the liquid blowing agent conforms to the Compressed Gas Association. It is a CGA 660 connection. For the nitrogen supply, the connection is a CGA 660 connection as well. 5/4-inch BSW fittings are also used in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and India regions. If you don't have the proper fittings or hose assembly, or have questions about the pressurization process, please contact your Honeywell technical service representative before proceeding. It is recommended that dry, regulated nitrogen be used to pressurize 1-ton cylinders. Do not mix with oxygen or air above atmospheric pressure, because it can form a combustible mixture. If unavailable, 100-pound or 45.4-kilogram nitrogen cylinders can be used. Guidance on using a 100-pound nitrogen cylinder is available by viewing our online videos for pressurizing a 100-pound or half-ton blowing agent cylinder, or by contacting Honeywell. Be sure that your nitrogen regulator can be set to 100 psi. You will also need a gas hose rated for nitrogen use with a CGA 660 connection and an O-ring. Finally, ensure that you have a liquid discharge line with a CGA 660 connection and an O-ring. This line will be connected from the blowing agent cylinder to your process or mixing vessel. The purpose of this pressurization process is to ensure that the blowing agent cylinder has a consistent regulated pressure of 100 psi during dispensing to ensure consistent flow. Now that all equipment has been checked, it's time to prepare for the actual pressurization process. Step 1 is to prepare the blowing agent cylinder to be pressurized and to dispense product into your process or mixing vessel. To remove the cap from a 1-ton cylinder, turn the cap so the notches line up. You can then remove it from the cylinder. You will see 2 valves on the cylinder. Remove the plastic wrap on the valves if this has not already been done. It is critical that these valves are aligned vertically for proper dispensing. You may need to roll the cylinder to achieve proper vertical valve alignment. Remove the cover from the vapor port. It is the top port and will be used for the nitrogen gas to enter the blowing agent cylinder. Check for the required O-ring on the nitrogen gas hose before connecting. Next, connect the nitrogen gas hose to the blowing agent cylinder vapor port and secure tightly. Now, remove the cover from the liquid discharge port. It is the bottom port on the 1-ton cylinder. Before attaching the liquid discharge line to the port, be sure to check for the required O-ring. It is also critical to ensure that the line is rated for the pressure being used and that the hose material is compatible with the blowing agent. Connect liquid discharge line and secure tightly. This completes this stage of blowing agent cylinder preparation. Now that the lines are connected, the process of pressurizing the blowing agent cylinder can begin. First, check that the nitrogen source regulator is set to dispense at the correct pressure of 100 psi. Next, open the valve at the nitrogen regulator from the in-house source. Now, open the ball valve on the nitrogen gas line. Finally, open the vapor valve on the blowing agent cylinder by turning it counterclockwise to allow the nitrogen vapor to flow into the cylinder and pressurize it. This completes this stage of the pressurization process. With the blowing agent cylinder now pressurized with nitrogen, you're ready for the final stage in the process. First, check that the liquid discharge line is securely connected to your process or mixing vessel. You can now open the liquid valve of the blowing agent cylinder to dispense the blowing agent. If a secondary ball valve is used on the dispensing line, open it as well. The blowing agent will be dispensed as a liquid. Carefully monitor the flow of liquid blowing agent into your process or mixing vessel to avoid overfilling and to reduce the potential for spillage. Once you're satisfied that the blowing agent has been adequately dispensed from the cylinder, you can take the following steps to conclude the process. First, close the ball valve on the liquid discharge line to shut off the flow of blowing agent to your process or mixing vessel. Now, close the liquid valve on the blowing agent cylinder to stop any further dispensing of blowing agent. Next, close the vapor valve on the blowing agent cylinder. Next, close the valve on the nitrogen gas hose and the valve at the nitrogen regulator from the in-house source. Now, slowly and carefully disconnect the nitrogen gas hose from the top port of the blowing agent cylinder to remove pressure on the line. Finally, disconnect the liquid discharge line from the bottom port of the 1-ton cylinder. When the cylinder is completely empty, you can return it to Honeywell. Check for cylinder return instructions for your region. We recognize that this demonstration does not include all circumstances, and pressurization processes may vary. It is intended as guidance only. For additional information, you can reference the conversion manuals for each product. If you have questions about Honeywell blowing agents or this process, please contact your Honeywell representative.